welcome back, hopefully, to my second part of my devlog of my game. So last week we left off here. This was the sprint I was left with. Basically, to sum it up, I'm gonna start working on dialogue. Um, yeah, basically having uh, the systems in game set up for it. So like you can go up to something, press a button, and you go into a dialogue mode and not a gameplay mode. And then some way to add dialogue. Um, Although that didn't have to be integrated fully with the other system just yet. I'll get into it in a second. And lastly, I wanted to do fog. And as you can see, all were completed. So, really quick, jumping into the game. This is what it looks like. Excuse me. Boom, boom. Wow. Oh, actually, I lied. There is no fog. Psych. Look at that. Fog in my game. Wow, so cool. Very cool. Never seen that before. Anyway, over to the main event. This charcoal. Oh, what an unassuming object in this world. Oh, why can I interact with it? Oh, I've been learning Latin. That's why I said a lot of the dialogue is going to be in Latin. So apologies, or not if you understand it. But anyway, um, it says. I think it says. I'm not 100% sure. It says, "Hello, friend. How are you today?" That's what it's supposed to say. If you know Latin, please correct me in the comments. Or, if you know code and you realize how ugly this all is, please correct me. Anyway, so, dialogue. At least the very, barest bones imaginable of it. Another thing you'll notice, I don't know if I talked about it last week, I another change I made wasn't in the sprint. I changed the scene asset manager, and I have a lot more control over the scene assets. So, if I just, this is showing all the collision tests currently happening. So you can see these these bushes, basic things that don't need to have. Oh, okay, I forgot to turn off on that one. But you can see actually, that's a good example. This one has collision, and these don't, because I told these not to have collision, which I can do now. I can also tell my scene asset manager to give dialogue to certain objects. This one doesn't have dialogue, just this one. One more time. Wow, very cool. So, yeah, and then just to go over what that looks like, it looks like this. So, whenever I want something to have dialogue, I add this little dialogue flag. And whenever I don't want it to have collision, I add this no collision thing, and then the rest of it you can see is just, it's pretty self-explanatory. Yeah, and so the way it works, super, super, super quick. I have this struct here called asset attributes, which has a list of all the asset strings, a string, the dialog text if it has dialog, a pointer to the world matrix, and then two booleans basically telling it whether it has collision or dialog, and then yeah, um, that's that. That's how the scene assets work now. Yeah, I guess I didn't show it off in the last video, but trust me, this is a good improvement. Anyway, moving on to what we're all here for. Okay, dialogue. How does it look now? So, um, I think to, yeah, I think I am gonna start here. um, so how does it work? Now to get into how it works, I actually have to talk about a little bit about my interactable system. Okay, this is a game system that I built that basically allows you to create a let me just show it. Create a class and add an interactable and a interactable interface class, with basically a custom callback, um, and then so it outsources all of the logic of the raycasting, the text that appears when you write up when you write the text that appears when you are going to interact with something. It it all that logic is contained within these two classes, or really this one, and this is just a callback function. Yeah, and so whenever this that those two classes, that class interactable handles all of the collision uh, stuff. I was trying to think of a better word, but I couldn't. Anyway, um, yeah. So all you have to do is you give it a reference to your callback, you give it a collision model, and then you give it a world position, and then your Bob's your uncle. Okay, thanks. Thanks, Visual Studio. That's cool. Anyway, um, so whenever the callback, see if I can find it here quickly. Yes, here. Okay. Whenever the callback is triggered, essentially meaning that the interactable detected a collision between the player's ray, which I didn't show off, but there's a ray coming off the player. Whenever the interactable class detects a collision there, it calls this callback function, and this callback function, if the okay, thanks. If the player's pressing E to interact, it will start a dialog event. And what that does is does two things. So it tells the player manager to start the dialog event, which basically turns off all player input by switching the strategy in the player input checker. So you can see this is what's responsible for all the player input, or like reading it. So here's all the movement. Here's all the key pressed listeners here, and now you can see it's all off-sourced to this input strategy. And then when the dialog strategy is implemented, it basically just doesn't let the player move or interact with anything. So yeah, that's that. And then so that's the first thing that is done when you start dialog. And then just jumping over to the or sorry, not here. To the where is it? Here. To the okay. So player manager stops all player movement. Then the and by the way, it also freezes any enemies that are that are active in the scene. Um, and then it moves on to tell the dialog manager to display the dialogue. So that was the red text. That's just a placeholder font, by the way. That was the text that showed up, and then it changed the camera position here. You can see it updates there. It updates its own camera. Then it sets the camera equal to its camera in the show dialog. So yeah, that's how dialogue is shown. That's how it works. Moving on to a little bit of a diversion as to how things work, the fog works, just because I want to get it out of the way really quick. Texture light. So this is my shader. This is back end, all the way in the back end. So yeah, there's logic for all the shadows, blah blah blah, that important at this moment. So this is all the code for fog. This is simply the way I was disabling and enabling it. All it does is it sets the opacity equal to 1 or 0, and if it's less than 1, I don't calculate the fog. But yeah, that's basically it. I don't know if it's the most efficient way. My professor told me once that this was not a good way, but I've not found a better way. So if anyone knows a better way, please let me know. Yeah, that's how the fog works. It's not the best use of a fog because it's all, you know, it's hard coded into the shader and in a way I don't really like, but you know, it is what it is. Anyway, moving on. So, I think how are we doing for time? Okay, that's fine. That's how the system works in the game so far. This is how. So, going back to the sprint, some way to easily add dialogue does not necessarily need to be displayed. Welcome to that. So this is my sandbox. So you can see more Latin already. This is my sandbox. This is where I come to prototype things. You can see some of my A-star stuff is in here as well. Wow, fun. Anyway, okay, let me run this, and then you'll see. So while this builds, going through it one by one, thing by thing. Player progress flag. What is that? I think I talked about it last time. It is how I'm going to track the player progress in the story, basically. And obviously that's going to affect the different dialogue options. So right now, what we just did is we said interact with Quintus. So this is dialogue. This is a dialogue component. You recognize it from the the actual game, but here it works differently because it's just a prototype. But anyway, um, so we're interacting with Quintus. Imagine we just walked up to Quintus in game. We pressed E. We're talking to him. And here's his dialogue. Salve. That means hello. I'm just gonna translate it automatically. I'm not gonna be cringe. Read it in Latin. Anyway, he says hello. He says my name is Quintus. Who are you? And then that's it. Um, However, you can see if we were to add a different dialogue flag. So now I'm adding the new dialogue progression flag. Um, and then I go into the exact same interaction. It's not perfect. So what should happen is this should be last. It should say it should say what last. This yeah. Um, However, I'm not too hung up on trying to bug fix it because it's not the final version. So yeah. Anyway, so what, and then so it says what. That's a part of this interaction from this flag. So imagine we're in game. We just picked up. Uh, we just opened the door to get to Quintus, and he's saying, "Wow, thanks for saving me." Because now the player has this new progression flag unlocked, and yeah, and so that dialogue option opens up to him when you go up and talk to him, um, and then the rest of the dialogue is the same. Um, Moving on to a different person. Actually, I think you get the idea. How does this work? Dialogue manager. Again, you probably saw that in the last in the actual game. Has this new function called add dialogue, and you give it the following data. So you give it the character name, the name of the speaker. You give it the progression flag that unlocks this dialogue, and you give it the dialogue itself. Yeah. So quick side tangent. The goal of doing all this, obviously, I could just hard code everything, blah blah blah, and it'd be much easier. But I want it to be at least somewhat realistic. Um, as in, I wouldn't expect to, I wouldn't just hand it over to a game designer, be like, there you go, just put all the dialogue into this array, go crazy. Um, yeah. So this way, it's like there's at least a little bit of control, a little bit of you can kind of see what's happening. Okay, Jeff says this, blah blah blah. And I recognize it's not like the most smooth system, but at some point it has to the dream has to hit the reality that it's just me working on this. And if I ever want to finish it, I have to at least somewhat, set a boundary for myself. Um, but yeah, here's what it looks like. So anyway, back to add dialogue. What does add dialogue do? Add dialogue um, creates or gets a dialogue list from the map of characters. Then with this dialogue it adds a dialogue line. What does that do? Okay, when you add a dialogue line, it searches through a map of the different dialogue flags, and if that dialogue flag doesn't have any dialogue flag text mapped to it, it creates a new dialogue text. What does that do? A dialogue text contains all the logic for how the string is read and how the string is split up. So you'll notice that even though this came on different lines, when I sent it to the dialogue manager, it was all one line. And so basically it just separates it, these slashes, you can see, it separated every slash into a different line of dialogue. Because yeah, I'm sure you can imagine situations in the game where you'd want um, you'd want different you'd want different lines of dialogue to be still part of the same interaction, but just like spread out. Um, but yeah, um, so dialogue text. That's why it's not just a string. Yeah, and with what this does is basically return the string. It returns the string in those pieces like it's supposed to, basically. Um, is that it for this? Yeah. So yeah, it's basically it. Progress flags. Again, it's just this is all a prototype, so it's not like super serious. Oh, also I didn't even acknowledge it. I changed my theme. Yeah, I did that. Sorry. Moving on. Um, let's see. Is there anything else? No, I don't think so. So that leads me to next week. What is the sprint? So okay, now that the groundwork is totally laid out, or not totally, it is laid out. Um, we can start integrating the sandbox and the game itself. So what does that look like? That looks like these lines of text appearing in here whenever I interact with that charcoal box. You can see I already, so I give it the dialect it's supposed to say. It obviously just doesn't say it because it has no way of reading it just yet. Um, yeah, that wouldn't be too hard to implement, but I figured I would just leave it all for next week. Um, but yeah, some way to like obviously speak, like the speaking system should be like mostly complete. Yeah, with some wiggle room because of this next thing that I want to have done by next week. Um, I don't want to just write random things and have it all be, and just have to figure it out in the last 2 weeks. What the story is going to be. So yeah, I'm gonna start working on NPCs. What does that look like in game? I have no idea yet. I have literally no idea. Um, so that's a little scary. But yeah, start working on NPCs, and then just write some things out. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just um, the very, 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 very basics of a plot. Um, I want to try and find. So right now I was just using the debug font for all the dialogue, which doesn't look great. So I want to try and find some kind of assets online. Um, I want to have. Yeah, okay. So I just want to integrate the dialogue system in the sandbox. Yeah. Finally, last thing here. I want to start working on. I'm just scared that I don't want to have to cram everything in last minute. So um, I'm gonna cram it in early. um, and that's what the idea here is with improving the enemy AI. It's gonna be a small thing. So right now you'll notice when they chase me, maybe I can show it. When an enemy chases me, it when it gets close to me, it kind of follows a weird path, and the reason for that is, if I do this, the reason for that is if you look here, he's following his A star directions. He's not actually heading towards me. So right now, there you go. He'll turn diagonally, diagonally, and then come straight down to me. And it just looks awkward. So what the idea will be is, sorry, I just pointed at my computer like you could see, but I was pointing at the little line at the zombie's feet, but that it doesn't matter. Anyway, um, yeah, the plan is, um, when the zombie's within a certain distance, it will head straight for the player, and to prevent it from, just clipping through things, as soon as it comes in contact with either a wall, one of the scene assets, the player, it will, okay, maybe not the player, it will find a new path in A star using the A star algorithm. And yeah, hopefully that works. If not, the idea is just to work on it, and I'll report back next week. But yeah, those are the goals for next week. And I think that's pretty much it. Thank you.